I was sitting on the old plaid couch in my parents' living room in Dallas, same one from when I was a kid, when Caleb tore through the wrapping paper and held up a set of car keys like he'd just won the lottery. "A Ford Bronco? No way," he yelled, hopping to his feet like he was 12 again, not 29. Dad clapped him on the back, full grin, like he'd personally built the damn thing. "Only the best for our little entrepreneur," he said. Mom was practically tearing up. "You've worked so hard, honey. You deserve it." I glanced down at the box in my lap. Flimsy paper, already coming unglued at the corner. I peeled it open. A kid's cartoon lunchbox, from a show I used to like in elementary school. Still had the $2.49 price tag stuck to the bottom. Inside were 2 crumpled $1 bills. Dad laughed like it was the punchline to a joke, only he understood. "There you go, son, for your future business fund." I stared at him. I'm 35, regional manager at a logistics company that runs 7 figures in quarterly revenue. Caleb mows lawns for a living, barely. But somehow, I'm the one getting monopoly money in a tin box. Mom leaned across the couch and said, "Don't take it the wrong way, sweetheart. Caleb just needs more encouragement." I bit the inside of my cheek so hard it nearly bled, just smiled and nodded. The rest of the morning blurred by. Caleb revved the Bronco in the driveway while Dad filmed it like some proud car commercial director. Mom followed behind with a plate of cinnamon rolls. No one asked about my promotion, not one word. I stood up. "Bathroom," I said, not waiting for a response. I walked through the hallway, past a wall covered in framed photos. Caleb at his high school football banquet, Caleb at his college formal, Caleb holding a fish in Cabo. There was one of me in a cap and gown from high school. That was about it. Upstairs, I shut the bathroom door, leaned over the sink, and stared into the mirror. I waited for something. Tears, rage, anything. Nothing came. Just this slow, heavy ache that sat in my chest like wet cement. No weight I could shake off, no words I could say to make it make sense. Just the same old story, wrapped in tinsel and lies. I flushed the toilet so they wouldn't ask questions. Then, I walked back downstairs. Caleb was showing off his new backup camera. I waited until the house was dead quiet. No more car revving, no fake laughs from the living room, no questions about the funny lunchbox. Just silence, broken only by the ticking of the old grandfather clock in the hallway. Upstairs, I zipped my duffel and packed only what mattered: my high school championship ring, the framed certificate from my promotion, and the small metal toolbox my grandfather gave me before he passed. I'd kept it all these years, not because it was valuable, but because it was real. The rest, left behind. I placed the wrapped gifts on the dining table, in a neat little row. A custom golf driver I had engraved for Dad, the French perfume Mom always mentioned in passing, and the noise-canceling headphones Caleb said would help him focus while scaling the business. Not one of them had been opened. At 3:30 in the morning, I shut the door behind me and walked down the driveway to my 10-year-old pickup. The cold hit hard, but I didn't flinch. I slid behind the wheel, turned the ignition, and didn't look back. No note, no goodbye, just gone. By sunrise, I was crossing the border into Oklahoma. Flat fields, empty roads, the kind of space that makes your thoughts louder than you want them to be. That's when my phone buzzed. It was Mom. "Did you remember to pay the electric bill for the lake house?" Not "how are you," not "where are you," not even "why did you leave in the middle of the night?" Just business as usual, like I was a damn utility service. I stared at the screen until it went dark again. And then it hit. Not like a truck. Not like a storm, but like an old tape I'd watched too many times before. Caleb's 6th birthday. He got a magician, balloon animals, catered BBQ, even one of those chocolate fountains. My 7th? 2 cousins, leftover pizza, and a melted Dairy Queen cake Mom picked up on the way home from work. That line, "You don't need us the way Caleb does," I'd heard it 100 times, maybe more. Same with, "You're the stable one." Translation, "You don't matter as much." When Caleb was failing out of college, Dad hired a tutor, paid his rent, even sent him on a mental reset trip to San Diego. When I got promoted at work and offered to take them out to dinner to celebrate, Mom said, "Let's do something after the holidays. Caleb's just going through a rough patch." That was always the excuse. Caleb was always the fire they had to put out. Me? I was just the backup generator, Reliable, invisible, not worth celebrating. The more I thought about it, the clearer it got. My whole life had been a long string of skipped moments. Missed recitals, forgotten birthdays, graduation. I gave the damn speech as salutatorian, and they weren't there. Caleb had a soccer tournament. They sent flowers. I slammed my palm against the steering wheel, not out of rage, just frustration that it took me this long to finally walk away. That silence in the truck was brutal. No music, no podcasts, just the heater and my thoughts. But it was honest. For once, I wasn't pretending everything was okay. By the time I hit the Kansas line, my hands were shaking from the cold and the weight of it all, but I kept driving. Didn't stop, didn't call back, didn't apologize. Because for the first time in 35 years, I wasn't staying quiet. I wasn't holding it in to keep the peace. I wasn't their afterthought anymore. Somewhere outside Wichita, I finally made the call. Aaron picked up on the second ring. "You good?" "No," I said. "I just left my parents' place. For good." There was a pause, but not the uncomfortable kind. "Get here safe," he said. "I've got a spare room." That was it. No questions, no speeches, just exactly what I needed. I hung up and kept driving. The Kansas landscape dragged on forever. Flat fields, faded signs, the occasional gas station lit like a bad memory. Snow started coming down steady, thick enough that I had to lean forward in my seat just to keep my eyes on the road. Wipers thumped back and forth, rhythmic and dull. Somewhere near the Colorado border, I stopped at this dusty diner off the highway. Looked like the type of place that hadn't changed since the 80s. Booths with cracked vinyl, coffee strong enough to wake the dead. I sat at the counter and ordered black coffee, didn't bother with food. The waitress, Sheila, according to her tag, looked like she'd seen every kind of broken walk through that door. Mid-50s, no makeup, tired eyes. She set the mug down in front of me. "Family didn't come through, huh?" I blinked at her. "Is it that obvious?" She just gave me a half smile. "It always is." I nodded once, didn't try to explain. She topped off my cup. "Love's not about blood, it's about who shows up." That line hit me harder than I expected. I didn't say anything back. I just left a 20 on the counter and got back in the truck before I lost it. The rest of the drive through western Colorado felt like moving through a snow globe someone kept shaking. By the time I hit Denver city limits, it was after 10. My body was screaming for sleep, but my head was still wired, spinning with the weight of it all. Aaron lived in a 2-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, just clean, quiet, solid. He opened the door in gym shorts and a hoodie, like I hadn't just dropped a bomb on his week. "Glad you're here," he said. That was it. He pointed to the room at the end of the hall. Fresh sheets, towel folded on the bed, beer already chilling in the fridge. I didn't even grab one. I went straight to the room, dropped my bag on the floor, and lay down without taking off my shoes. The mattress wasn't even that soft, but something in my body let go, like it finally got the message. We're safe now. I didn't wake up for 14 hours. No dreams, no tossing, no guilt dragging me back to the surface. Just sleep. Full, deep, quiet sleep. When I finally rolled over and saw the light coming in through the blinds, it felt like my lungs worked again for the first time in months. I sat up. My back popped, my neck ached, but I didn't care. I was nowhere near okay, but I wasn't alone, and that was enough to start. By the time I finished my first real cup of coffee in Aaron's kitchen, I knew I wasn't going back. That morning, I sent an email to HR, told them I needed a transfer to the Denver branch. No excuses, no drama, just a clean request. I figured it'd take weeks to get sorted. It took 3 days. "Based on your record, you're more than qualified," the reply read. That was it. No strings pulled, no politics, just performance. Aaron came home that night with a rental flyer in hand. Furnished, month to month, 5 minutes from here, not fancy but clean. The place was small, barely room for a couch and a bed. But the windows faced the mountains, and for the first time in years, I didn't hear someone else's voice in my head when I stepped into a room. That first night in the new apartment, I slept with the window cracked open and didn't wake up once. No footsteps, no Caleb blasting music in the garage, no dad yelling over the TV. Just wind and distance. Then the messages started. Mom first. Her voicemail started polite, like she was testing the water. Then they shifted. "If you don't return that truck, we'll report it as stolen. We trusted you with family property. Don't make us go through legal channels." I didn't even respond. I just blocked her number. Then Caleb texted, "You're being dramatic. Grow up. This is family stuff, not the end of the world." I blocked him too. And just like that, silence. Heavy at first, unfamiliar. Like I'd forgotten what life sounded like without their noise taking up every corner. A week later, Aaron said, "You need something to do that isn't just working or dodging their calls." He dragged me to a free woodworking class at a community center on the east side. Bunch of guys in flannel and work boots, retired teachers, and quiet middle-aged women. I stood out like a sore thumb, but nobody cared. The instructor handed me a busted-up piece of pine and said, "Make something. Doesn't have to be pretty." I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I cut uneven edges, drilled the shelf backwards twice, even dropped the damn thing once. By the end of the class, it leaned like it had survived a small earthquake. But it stood. It was crooked and scratched and ugly as hell, but I'd made it. With my hands? From nothing. And standing there, sawdust still on my hoodie, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Maybe longer. I smiled. Not the fake kind you put on at family dinners or in conference calls. A real one, small but honest. After class, Aaron slapped the back of my headlight with a shop towel and said, "Next week, we're building toolboxes." I didn't answer, just nodded and looked down at the shelf in the passenger seat. It didn't need to be perfect. It just needed to be mine, and it was. I set the crooked little shelf on my kitchen counter, still brushing sawdust off my jacket, when Aaron walked in holding a small white card. "Before you say anything," he said, "just take it." I looked at the card, then at him. "A therapist? Really? You've been carrying this crap alone for decades," he said. "Just try one appointment." I almost tossed the thing into the trash. My hand even twitched like it wanted to. But instead, I shoved it into my pocket. I told myself it didn't mean anything, just information, a name, a number. 2 days later, I called anyway. The guy's name was Dr. Vogel, older voice, steady, like the kind of person who didn't rush or judge. He had an opening that afternoon. I took it before I could talk myself out of it. His office sat above a bookstore downtown, up a narrow staircase that creaked with every step. When I walked in, the smell hit first. Old books, coffee, and something warm I couldn't place. The waiting room was small, quiet, peaceful without trying too hard. He stepped out a minute later. Gray beard, wire glasses, sweater that looked hand-knitted. "You must be Aaron's friend," he said. "Come in." I sat on the couch. He took the chair across from me. No clipboard, no laptop. Just him. "So," he said, "what brings you here today?" My mouth opened, but nothing came out. Where was I supposed to start? With Christmas? With 35 years of being the afterthought? With the shelf in my truck that looked straighter than how my family treated me? I took a breath. "My parents gave my brother a car," I said, "and they gave me a lunchbox." He didn't laugh, not even a smirk. He just nodded slowly. "How did that feel?" I let out a sound that wasn't quite a laugh. Pathetic to even say it out loud. "It's not pathetic," he said. "It's context." I leaned back, the words dragging themselves out of me like they had been trapped for years. They've always done it, always picked him, always found a way to make his wins bigger and my wins. Nothing. I thought I was imagining it. "What would you call that pattern?" he asked. The word stuck in my throat. I hated how small it made me feel, childish, weak. But it pushed its way out anyway. "Favoritism." He nodded again. "And how would you describe the impact it's had on you?" I stared at the floor, my hands tightened around each other. I feel stupid even talking about this, like I should have been over it years ago. "It's not childish," he said, voice calm but firm. "It's called emotional neglect." The room went silent, not uncomfortable, just heavy. True. Something in my chest shifted, like a knot loosening by a single thread. We talked for another half hour. Nothing dramatic, nothing explosive. Just me saying things out loud I'd never let myself admit. Him listening like it all made sense. When I stepped outside, the air felt colder, but lighter. Like I'd dropped something I didn't realize I'd been carrying. I walked down that creaky staircase, pushed open the door, and stood on the sidewalk with the wind hitting my face. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel crazy. I just felt awake. The wedding invitation showed up on a Wednesday, tucked between a credit card offer and a coupon for tire rotation. Cream envelope, gold trim, calligraphy that tried way too hard. I opened it at the kitchen counter, coffee in one hand, and scanned the card. You are cordially invited to the wedding of Rachel Green and Justin Lee. Fine. Then I saw the table assignment. Table 4, seated with Mr. and Mrs. Ronald Turner, Caleb Turner. No +1, no buffer. Just me, boxed in between 3 people I'd spent my entire life learning how to survive. I didn't rage, didn't curse. I just sat down and opened my laptop. Wrote a short email to Rachel. Hey Rachel, thanks for the invite. Would it be possible to seat me at another table? No drama, just need some space from my parents and brother right now. Hope the planning's going smooth. Let me know. She replied within an hour. Oh God, of course. I'm sorry. I'll move you right now. No pushback, no confusion. Just handled. But that Friday, right before lunch, my desk phone rang. There's a Caleb Turner here asking for you, the front desk said. I stood so fast my chair rolled into the wall. Tell security not to let him pass the lobby, I said. I'll be right there. He was pacing near the elevators when I walked up, ball cap pulled low, hands jammed in his coat pockets. Like this was a surprise visit and not an ambush. What the hell are you doing here? I asked. You ignored my texts, he said. So you show up at my job? He looked around, like realizing for the first time this wasn't our parents' driveway. You're embarrassing the family, man. I blinked. By sitting at a different table at a wedding? By acting like some victim, making people uncomfortable. Dad's hearing crap at work. You're making things worse. I crossed my arms. You think this is about seating charts? You think I left because of a table? You're being dramatic, he said, his voice starting to rise. Mom's crying every day. Dad might lose his job. You really want that on you? I took a step closer, kept my voice low and even. That's not on me. None of it is. He stared like I'd slapped him. I nodded toward the door. Let's go. What? You don't walk into my workplace and corner me like this. You want to talk? Like adults? Fine. But not here. Not like this. He didn't move at first, but I didn't back down. I just waited. After a few seconds, he turned and followed me toward the glass exit. We walked past the front desk, through the security gates, out to the sidewalk. I held the door open for him. Before he stepped through, I said, Don't come back unless you're ready to talk like a real person. No guilt, no gaslighting, just truth. He looked at me like I was speaking a language he didn't know, like I was some stranger pretending to wear his brother's face. Then he walked off without another word. I stood there for a second, heart pounding, chest tight, not from fear, but from finally saying what needed to be said. I went back upstairs, closed my door, got back to work. I landed in Austin on a Friday afternoon. Humid air hit me the second I stepped outside the airport. I picked up my rental car, drove straight to the hotel, and didn't text a single soul. They didn't know which flight I was on, what hotel I picked, or if I was even coming. I liked it that way. The rehearsal dinner was held at some overpriced event hall downtown. Neutral walls, rented chairs, fake flower centerpieces. I walked in wearing a plain black button-up and slacks. Nothing flashy, just clean. I wasn't here to impress anyone. Mom saw me first. She gasped like I'd risen from the dead. "Oh my God," she whispered. "You came." She didn't move toward me, just stood there, clutching her wine glass like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Dad turned his head and pretended to adjust the cuff on his sleeve. Caleb was standing nearby. He smirked and said, "Guess the family drama tour's back on the road." I didn't even blink, just kept walking. A server passed with a tray of drinks. I took a whiskey and found a spot near the edge of the room, not hiding, just not performing. People were mingling, laughing like this was some reunion movie. I sipped my drink and waited for the first one to approach. It didn't take long. Aunt Lisa, Mom's older sister, walked up and put a hand on my arm. Her tone was low, careful. "We always saw how different they treated you," she said. "We just didn't think it was our place." I gave her a polite nod. "It wasn't," I said. "But thanks." She looked like she wanted to say more, but didn't. During cocktail hour, a few more drifted by. A cousin I hadn't seen since high school gave me a half hug and said, "You look good, man. Like, solid." Another uncle said, "Your mom told us you'd moved to Denver. That true?" "Yep." He nodded, paused like he was deciding whether to say more, then walked off. It was like they all knew, or at least suspected, but had never said it out loud, never dared to call it what it was. Later, Rachel found me near the bar. She was still in her rehearsal dress, heels off, drink in hand, hair starting to frizz in the heat. "I'm really glad you came," she said. "I wasn't sure I would." She leaned in a little, voice lower. "You're not crazy. We all saw it. We just never thought you'd call it out." I looked at her, really looked at her. She meant it. No judgment, no performance, just truth. "I'm tired, Rach," I said. "Tired of pretending it didn't happen." She nodded like she understood. "Leave whenever you want. No one expects anything." So I did. No speech, no goodbyes, no confrontation. Just slipped out the side door into the sticky Texas air. Drove back to my hotel in silence, windows down, jacket off. The wedding hadn't even started yet, and I already felt like I'd done everything I needed to do. Sometimes closure isn't a big dramatic moment. Sometimes it's just knowing you don't owe anyone a damn thing anymore. The wedding morning started quiet. I woke up early, made hotel coffee that tasted like burnt cardboard, and ironed my shirt with the tiny travel iron they'd stuffed in the closet. No music, no TV. Just the steady sound of my breath and the dull thud in my chest I couldn't quite name. Around 9, I got a call from Rachel. "They want to talk to you," she said. "Now, before the ceremony." I didn't ask who they were. I already knew. She told me which room to go to, then hung up. No fluff, no apology. I walked down 2 hallways in the rented venue, past folding chairs and garlands and people setting up cocktail stations. The door was closed. I pushed it open without knocking. They were all there, Mom in a dusty blue dress, Dad in his tux vest, and Caleb still in his undershirt, sleeves rolled up like he'd been helping, but probably hadn't. Mom looked up first, eyes red, not from joy. Dad was seated, hands clasped like he was bracing for a verdict. Caleb leaned against the far wall, chewing the inside of his cheek. No one spoke right away. Then Mom said, "The house is being sold." I waited. Dad cleared his throat. "I got laid off last month. Company's downsizing. Benefits are gone. Severance was garbage." Mom added, "My blood pressure's out of control. I'm on 3 new medications." They all looked at me like I was supposed to say, "I'm sorry, I didn't." Caleb finally stepped forward. "You left, and everything fell apart." I pulled the folder from under my arm and dropped it onto the table between us. Thick, neat, years' worth of paper. "What's this?" Dad asked. "Receipts," I said. "Photos, statements, records, everything you never wanted to talk about." I flipped it open, held up a printout. "This is the loan I took out when Caleb couldn't cover rent in college. You said I was more financially responsible." Next page. "Here's Caleb's trip to Cancun, paid with your card. I was 26 and still eating instant noodles." Another. "This is the bill for Mom's car repair. You called me because Caleb's got enough on his plate." I kept flipping. Rapid fire. No space to breathe. "You want to talk about things falling apart? They didn't fall apart. The system stopped working. That system, where I cleaned up every mess, took every hit, and shut up about it, collapsed the second I walked out." Mom started crying. Dad rubbed his face and shook his head like I was being unfair. Caleb didn't say a word, not one. I looked him dead in the eye. "You want to know what really broke? You built a life on the assumption I'd carry both of us, that I'd stay silent, that I'd let it keep happening." Still nothing. I stepped back and zipped the folder closed. "I'm not here for revenge. I'm not here to fix anything. I came to say this to your faces, not through text, not at a table, but in a room where no one else is watching." Mom wiped her cheeks. "We didn't know. We never meant to." "Yeah," I cut in. "You did. Maybe not out of malice, but definitely out of comfort, and I let you. For too long. They all look smaller now, not pathetic, just exposed. I'll consider rebuilding something," I said. "Maybe. But only if all 3 of you start therapy and actually name what happened. No denial, no rewriting." Caleb finally blinked. "You think therapy's gonna fix this?" No, I think accountability might. I walked to the door, hand on the knob, then turned back once. This isn't about punishing you. It's about freeing myself. Then I left the room. My hands were steady, my spine straight. My heart was still pounding, but it wasn't fear. It was power. I didn't make it to the ceremony. I didn't need to. I'd already shown up for the part that mattered. Back in Denver, I tossed my suitcase on the floor and stood in the middle of my new place, just breathing. It wasn't fancy. 1 bedroom, 3rd floor, no elevator. But the lease was in my name. The furniture was mine. Not a hand-me-down couch from my parents or something Caleb loaned me during one of his fake generous phases. I bought it. I picked it. Every inch of it had my fingerprints on it. The first thing I unpacked was the crooked shelf from woodworking class. Still uneven, still a little wobbly, but it had become my favorite thing I owned. I anchored it to the wall above my desk. On it sat my tools, a couple books, and a small lunchbox. The same one from Christmas. I hadn't thrown it out. Instead, I turned it into a ritual. Every week since I left home, I folded a $2 bill and placed it inside, like a marker, like proof I was still here, still standing. The lid barely shut now, but I wasn't stopping. Work had picked up fast. The Denver branch clicked with me right away. No family connections, no hometown gossip, just my resume and what I could deliver. I got bumped to project lead last month. My team respected me, asked for my input, didn't second-guess everything I said, felt like oxygen. And then there was Lexi. We met at a trivia night Aaron dragged me to. She's a software developer with a dry sense of humor and the sharpest bullshit detector I've ever seen. First thing she said to me was, "You look like someone who used to be nice and got tired of it." I laughed so hard I almost spilled my drink. We'd been seeing each other ever since. No games, no pressure. She asked questions and actually listened to the answers. One night over takeout, I told her the lunchbox story. She didn't try to fix it or pity me. She just said, "No one gets to define your value but you." We started doing Sunday dinners with Aaron and his girlfriend Maya. Nothing fancy. Pasta, chili, tacos, laughter around the table. Not polite smiles or awkward silences. Actual laughter, jokes, teasing, stories that didn't end in disappointment. One night after dinner, I stepped into the kitchen to grab another beer and caught myself smiling, not for anyone else, just me. I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I wasn't bracing for guilt or backhanded comments. For the first time, I wasn't the backup plan, not the fixer, not the forgotten one. Just a guy with his own table, his own people, his own damn life, and it felt earned. I woke up to snow coating the windows, soft and clean. The Rockies stretched out in the distance like they'd been waiting for me to finally see them. Lexi was already up, sitting cross-legged at the edge of the bed, holding a box wrapped in butcher paper and twine. "Merry Christmas," she said, handing it over. I sat up and peeled the paper back. Inside was a chisel set. Real ones, wood handles, sharp enough to mean it. A set you don't buy as a joke. "Figured you'd earned a hobby that's yours," she said. "Not borrowed, not inherited, yours." I didn't say anything right away. Just nodded, smiled. It wasn't about the chisels. It was the fact that she saw me, all of me, no edits, no version filtered for family approval. The smell of coffee drifted in from the kitchen. The apartment was quiet, still. No frantic voices, no passive-aggressive guilt trips, no one yelling about whose turn it was to do anything. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from Caleb. A photo. He was sitting at a small table with our parents, takeout containers in front of them. No wrapped presents, no new cars. Just 3 people eating dinner like any other day. The message just said, "Merry Christmas." No guilt, no manipulation, just words. I stared at it for a second, then tapped the thumbs up emoji and set my phone back on the nightstand. Lexi leaned against me. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Actually, yeah." I stood, stretched, and walked over to the shelf. Ran my hand across the top. The lunchbox sat there like it always did, right next to my chisels now. I opened it. Inside, the folded stack of $2 bills had grown thick. One for every week since I'd left. A quiet record of time, my terms. That thing used to make me feel like a joke, like the punchline to someone else's story. Now it reminded me what I'd survived, what I'd built, what I'd stopped accepting. I grabbed my phone again and texted Aaron. Dinner still on for 6? A second later, he replied, Of course. Maya's already burning the garlic bread. I laughed. Lexi grinned from the bed. Christmas didn't feel like a test anymore. It didn't feel like I had to earn my spot at someone else's table. It felt like mine.